So the final question is, should you get an iPad or a MacBook for college? And the answer is... Yo, what is up my Apple World family, and welcome to the second episode on the Back to School series. If you guys didn't check out episode 1, we went over some really good and really useful iPad Pro tips for, of course, your back to school year. Which, once again, I'm sorry, but school is coming this month for a lot of you guys. Let me know in the comments down below, when do you guys start school? So anyways, let's get started. So the MacBook and the iPad have their pros and its cons, but in my opinion, there is a clear winner to what device will provide the better support throughout your school year. So let's go ahead and start with the MacBook, because you will probably need a MacBook if you're going in for film, graphic design, illustration, etc. Because you will need programs such as Final Cut Pro, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrators, and all of those professional programs. See, the thing is, I can't live without a Mac. I can't live without Final Cut Pro. As you guys know, I have my iMac and my iPad, and of course I have a MacBook, but I barely touch my MacBook anymore because I have an iMac. And in my opinion, I've said this before on my videos, but so many people think that the best duo, the best combo you can get is a MacBook and an iPad, and I totally disagree. I totally agree with the iMac and the iPad. The iMac and the iPad make the best duo because, of course, you've got iCloud Drive, so all of your files work together beautifully with your iPad and your Mac. And of course, your iPad is portable, which we're gonna go ahead and talk about portability later on in the video. Now you're probably asking, why don't you use your MacBook anymore? What makes the iPad so special, so unique? Well, if you think about it, the iPad has all of my books, my journal, my notes. If you have the Apple Pencil, your iPad can replace your books and journals as well. So anyways, there's so many of these tiny features that make me want the iPad rather than my MacBook. First off, the iPad is portable. Now, isn't the MacBook portable as well? Kind of. Let me explain. The keyboard of the iPad is detachable, and that makes it really easy to study everywhere you go. Now, yes, technically you can of course still study with your MacBook in the subway, for example, but hear me out. It's not the same just grabbing your backpack and grabbing your iPad and just simply studying your notes, rather than opening up your MacBook and you wouldn't really know where to put it, because of course, the iPad is a tablet. Let's not forget that. It's got a lot of features that try to copy a PC, a personal computer, a MacBook, but it's not a MacBook, it's still a tablet, which is really interesting because you've kind of got a bit of a taste of both worlds. Of course, an iPad is a tablet, but it's also kind of a PC. A MacBook is just a PC, it's just a personal computer. And you can't remove a keyboard, so you always have to use it sitting down. The iPad, you can just bring it anywhere you want. Now the MacBook takes the win on the viewing angle because, of course, as you guys know, Apple's Smart Keyboard only has one viewing angle, which I have to say, the viewing angle that it's perfect, especially when you're sitting down. But when you're at the couch, for example, and you want to type in stuff, it's kind of uncomfortable because, of course, once again, it's only got one viewing angle and you have to sit just right to make it actually work. The MacBook has tons of different viewing angles because, of course, it's a computer and you can, it's good stuff. Sometimes I just wish that the Smart Keyboard did that, but it's not that big of a deal. Anyways, the iPad replaces your journals, your books, and your notes. You can have your textbooks on your iPad, your notes, and with the Apple Pencil, it totally changes the game. Now I know, before you guys comment, you can read textbooks on your computer. Of course you can. You can do everything that the iPad can on your MacBook, but it's not the same experience. Let's say laying in bed. You're laying in bed with your iPad and your Apple Pencil, you're taking notes, you're highlighting stuff, you're marking up stuff. And then with your Mac, you have to sit and you have to lay down with an awkward position, and you wouldn't have a pencil, and you wouldn't have... The iPad feels like a book, and this video is of course focused on college, on back to school, so of course you will be trying to study. And studying with the iPad is a way much better experience. I've dealt with both, and trust me, the iPad is a much better experience. Also, a really good point that the iPad has is that it has a camera. And you might be thinking, who the heck takes photos on their iPad? Who is the cringy person that takes photos out in the street with their iPad? Which, by the way, if you take photos with your iPad,
I will find you, and I will kill you.
So if your teacher gives you homework or a handout, you can of course take a photo with your iPad, bring it to your dorm room. You can of course mark it up with your Apple Pencil, you can highlight it, you can review it. You can't do that with your MacBook. Of course, you still could. You could take a photo with your iPhone and then send it to yourself. But it's not the same. Literally just taking a photo with your iPad, you can scan it and then you can just mark it up. You can mark it up on the MacBook, you could, but it's also a little bit more complicated. Now, a pro and a con that have both devices is that the MacBook has a trackpad, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, and that the iPad has a touchscreen, which can sometimes be a good thing and that can sometimes be a bad thing. Sometimes when I have the iPad, I just wish I had a trackpad, and then when I'm using my MacBook, I just wish it would just be a tablet and I could just use it as a touchscreen. So if you're a bigger fan of touchscreen, of course, go for a MacBook. If you're a bigger fan of touchscreen, if you love your iPhone, go for your iPad. Another really important thing that we have to talk about is the App Store. The App Store on both devices, because on the Mac, you don't really download a lot of apps, which is a bad thing. And the Mac App Store kind of sucks because there's just not good apps. On the other hand, the iPad's App Store is incredible. There's so many great apps on the iPad, whether it's for education, gaming, entertainment, whatever you want. There's so many good ones, which by the way, I will be making a back to school iPad Pro apps video, so stay tuned for that. Which by the way, the last topic that we're gonna go ahead and talk about is apps for note-taking or note-taking in general. What is better to note-take on? The iPad with the Apple Pencil or with the keyboard, or the MacBook? And I'd say both, because of course you have a keyboard on both. But if I had to choose one, I'd go on the iPad because of course you've got the Apple Pencil and you've got Notability, which you've also got Notability on the MacBook, which is the best app for note-taking, which if you guys don't know what it is, I will link it down below. Definitely check it out. If you have a MacBook or an iPad, definitely download it because you're gonna crush your note-taking with that app. But anyways, on the Mac, Notability is not that good. On the other hand, with the iPad, it's so good, especially with the pencil. It's amazing. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you can tell that I'm a bigger fan of the iPad for education purposes. The MacBook is still a great device, and I don't want to crush on the MacBook because of course it's a great device as well, especially if you're a professional. There's so many good pro apps and I couldn't live without a Mac. But if you, for education, for back to school, for college, for school, I'd say the iPad is the best bet. You're just taking so much, and on the iPad you can also play games and all that stuff. You can also watch YouTube. Of course, you can do that on your MacBook as well, but it's also a tablet you can just enjoy on your couch and on your bed. It's just a different experience. So if you're looking to hardcore working and to hardcore professional video editing and that stuff, go with a Mac. If not, go with the iPad because once again, I love this thing. So anyways, guys, if you guys want to help support the channel and buy some awesome t-shirts, make sure to check out appleworldclothing.com. So yeah, don't forget to do all this stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.